Hi, my name is Dr. Jennifer Bellor, and I'm on the composition faculty here at UNLV.
Hi, I'm Danielle Kuntz. I'm a harpist and I help composers learn how to better write for the harp.
This past semester, I asked Danielle to give a few presentations to the student composers on how to write for the harp, and a number of the composers composed a new piece for Danielle that will be featured in this video.
I really enjoyed working with the composition students this semester. In our workshops and presentations, we really delved into the differences between the harp and the piano. We often approach the two instruments as very similar. We kind of use the piano as an introduction for the harp, but in fact, they're two very different instruments, and those differences are really important for composers to grasp as they write for the instruments. So I really enjoyed the opportunity both to interact with the students in the workshops and collaborate individually with these composers as they wrote new music for harp. So I hope you guys enjoy this music.
Thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoy the composer interviews and performances.
Hi, my name is Emily Clements. I am a composition student at UNLV, taking private lessons with Dr. Bellor. When I first started writing for harp, it was super daunting because I've never written for harp before. I've always loved the beauty and the beautiful colors and techniques it comes with the instrument. So I was very excited to be a part of this project and collaborating with a real harpist. Um, so I guess I started listening to a lot of Ravel and harp solos, and I was comparing how harp is written and how it adds to an orchestra versus when it's a solo instrument. And I took melodies and some things I've been working on this semester with my piano writing and arranged it for harp. And a lot of the flourishes in my piano writing for my opera was actually something I definitely was inspired to write for harp, and I just didn't know how. So I thought it would be a great time to test it out and arrange it for a smaller harp piece and work with Danielle. So it's very exciting to have that opportunity.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to work with Emily as well, and her writing's really beautiful. So a lot of what we actually did was just kind of rearrange which hands take which notes, kind of like what we did on some of the other pieces as well. The hands can kind of work in the same range versus piano, where one hand works, right hand usually plays the upper notes, left hand plays the lower notes. On the harp, you can interact a lot more, just to help things flow a little bit better, be able to play things quicker than you would otherwise. Some of the other things that we had discussed were there's a really fun 16th note passage in this piece that looks really difficult on the page, but it's actually really pattern based. So harpists love patterns, and that's just because it takes so many extra steps to play a note. So piano, you really just drop a finger down and play a key. On the harp, you have to place, actually press the string, close, and then you replace again. So there's like 3 or 4 steps that go into playing each note. So when there's patterns, we kind of can memorize the feeling of it and be able to play a lot quicker than we could if they were all completely different. So harpists love patterns. So this fun little jumpy section actually works really, really well on the harp just because it repeats the same pattern, but it sounds really fun. So I love that, and we were able to split it between the hands a little bit more than you would do on the piano. And then the other thing that we worked on was kind of the dreamy arpeggio section at the end. On the piano, it would have worked well to repeat each note. So the way it was originally written, you are repeating the same note at the end of one pattern at the beginning of the next pattern. Whereas on the harp, repeating notes doesn't work quite so well, just for the same reason. It takes more steps to play each note, and then you're having to stop the sound before playing it again, so then you're kind of making a very disjunct pattern. So we reworked that a little bit to make it work better on the harp. So I think you'll really enjoy how this piece sounds.
Hi, my name is Wendy. I'm a composition student taking Muse 213 here at UNLV, and that's the composer's workshop, which I'm really enjoying. When I was first approached or approaching writing for harp, it was it was very exciting actually because I love the sound of the harp. I considered up taking a few harp lessons. I think like a lot of composers, we just dabble and love to, find out how different instruments work. So I was always curious, but a harp is a big investment, and I never ended up taking harp, even though I had a friend where she would let me look at her harp or play with her harp and talk to me about harp every once in a while. And she was like, "Oh, it's like a piano." Okay, but then it's great because I have a chance to work with Danielle here, and I think the harp is just magical. It's it's the most angelic instrument there is out there, right? So that's a lot of fun, and just the sonic possibilities of exploring the sound of the harp, and maybe not at this point, but maybe in the future, combining the sound of the harp with something else, and seeing how that works within an ensemble. That would be great. That would be a lot of fun. So yeah, I've just had a lot of fun exploring the sonic possibilities with uh, Danielle's guidance and instruction, and definitely learning more about the practical limitations of what the hands obviously can do on a harp. So that's been my experience, and Danielle's been great to work with.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun working with Wendy, and um, what I love about her piece is it sounds different on the harp than it would on the piano. So on the piano, if you wanted to get the same kind of sustain, you'd be using the damper pedal, but then all the sounds would be meshed together. But then you'd also have times where there wouldn't be any sound whenever you change the pedal. On the harp, though, you can get that kind of resonance, but it's a little bit cleaner than it would be on the harp, or sorry, on the piano. So it's a cool comparison of how the same thing on two different instruments is going to sound so different just because they resonate differently from each other.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think a lot of composers take inspiration from the piano as like, because everything's laid out, and so usually we go from a piano sketch to thinking like that, especially people who are pianists, and then working and expanding that. So it's easier for maybe for composers to think of, oh, it's just a piano sideways, laying down. And so is the staff, actually, right? The musical staff is
Right.
almost like that. But I came from it with a perspective because I was listening, and some of it was recommendations, But I was just on YouTube. Danielle recommended a few pieces. I was on YouTube going for pieces, and I found a piece by Albanese, and it's originally meant for guitar, Spanish guitar. So there's the rhythmic component, a lot of repetition, strong and fiery rhythm, right? And I actually heard a piece of his that was translated to the guitar harp, and that was a big influence in this piece because it brought out textures that I never really associated with the harp. And I think for me, the exploring the sonic possibilities, like I said, is what's interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then, the harp and the guitar, they really have a lot of similarities in sound. Of course, the harp has the differences of, the expanded range and the hands being able to work together a little bit differently than on guitar. But in terms of the sound, they're actually more similar than, the harp and the piano. So it's really cool to, see, what was similar to the harp, what's different, and how to really explore those and exploit those unique capabilities.
Right, they're cousins.
Yeah, for sure.
my name is Coreen Levin, and I'm a music student here at UNLV. I am taking composition lessons with Dr. Bellor. When I first approached writing for harp, well, actually, I didn't know I was going to be writing for harp. This was a brand new thing for me. I'd written a piano piece. Well, not actually written. I'd played a piano piece and was learning how to transcribe it. That was the whole first how I approached Dr. Bellor, was how do I transcribe what I have played and make it understandable, the rhythms and everything. So Dr. Bellor suggested, we have a harp player and we're looking for people to write for harp. Would you consider doing this piece as a harp version? I said, absolutely. So this will be a good experience for me. So I didn't know anything about harp pedals. I knew they existed. I didn't know how they worked. I didn't know that writing in flat keys creates a much more resonant sound because of the way the harp is constructed. I didn't know about the harp diagrams, which to me, when I first saw them, those look like radar scopes at air traffic control. Very interesting for me. And so it was really a good learning process. And Danielle, thankfully, is very patient. And I think it's a great idea that she's working with the composers here so that we can get more repertoire for harp and help people not be frightened of writing for harp. It can be intimidating, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I've really enjoyed working with, the composers here is just we need more harp music. We need composers to be less nervous about writing for the harp. So the way to learn how to write for the harp is just to do it and then get feedback. So that's what I really enjoyed about, working with Coreen and the other students. So kind of what we did in our first meeting is we went through the piece and it actually worked quite well on the harp. And I really like how Coreen kind of focused on the space between the notes and the resonance and allowing the harp to ring, because that's a big difference between the harp and the piano. The piano, the sound stops immediately unless you actively let it sustain. On the harp, everything rings unless you actively dampen it. So it's really nice to have pieces that actually take advantage of the resonance of the harp and letting it ring and the richness of that. So that was a lot of what we talked about in working through the piece. And some of it was, little detailed stuff like switching, which hand plays which notes, since the hands can kind of work together in the same range of the harp, versus piano, one hand usually plays the upper notes, the other hand usually plays the lower notes. On the harp, they tend to interact a lot more, which helps some parts be more playable since you can divide it between the hands. So that was one thing that we worked on in our collaboration.
One of the interesting things for this piece, I wanted to share a little bit about the narrative, just a short thing. So the inspiration for this, and it, called A Return to Home. And it was actually created on 15 January of 2021. And the inspiration is awakening from one of those rare dreams, from that ephemeral state where you've spent time enjoying the company of a loved one who is no longer with you. So there are parts in the piano version where that is, I have a whole narrative that goes with that. But Dr. Bellor was saying, well, explore some freedoms. Yeah, you have your piano version, but you can depart from that for the harp version and explore different things. You don't have to keep it the same because you are the creator. Me being the creator, I mean, that's an awesome responsibility. I'm creating this thing that I can change it and make it really fit the harp, which was a really neat thing. And one thing I wanted to mention was, and I've been reading through this, and I guess the gentleman's name, it's Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. I had to look up how to pronounce his name, but the flow. But there was one little passage he talks about in creation and being in an optimal experience, because that's really what I felt when I was writing or playing this, and also working on transcribing. That an optimal experience, it is what a painter feels when the colors on the canvas begin to set up a magnetic tension with each other, and a new thing, a living form, takes shape in front of the astonished creator. And that's exactly what it feels like, because composing is so new to me. It really is. I mean, I'm an oboe performance major. So it's been a wonderful process. And I'm just so thankful to have supportive people like Dr. Bellor, and also you as, being so patient with us as we learn how to write for harp. Wonderful.
Well, absolutely. And I just love how you guys are so excited about writing for it. That just makes the whole process really exciting and fun for me as well.
Hi, my name is Kennedy Carranza. I'm a composition student at UNLV, and I'm currently taking MUS 213 Compositions Workshop. When I had first approached Harp, I thought it was some unconquerable beast that I would never be able to slay. But after looking through some modern harp notation, I realized fundamentally harp and piano are quite similar. So I was able to take my piece that was originally for piano and change it into a harp piece through Danielle's feedback.
So when Kennedy and I started working together, a lot of our stuff was just kind of making those little tiny adjustments in the music. So the opening, you kind of hear the little motif of the two eighth notes together. We adjusted that to make it fit a little bit better on the harp, because on the harp repeated notes, we tend to hear it's not quite as clean as it is on the piano. So we made a little adjustments there. We adjusted some of the interval sizes just to fit the harp a little bit better, but fundamentally the piece is still has the same concepts, the same ideas. This piece is actually quite unique in that it actually has a half step modulation in it, which we don't see very often in harp repertoire because you have to change all 7 pedals to be able to make that shift. But the way Kennedy had spaced out the accidentals, it actually worked quite well. So well done.
Through Danielle's feedback, which was incredibly digestible, she really took the mysticism out of harp notation for me and overall increased my confidence as a composer.
I appreciate that. And that's always just my goal, because the way to learn how to write for harp is just to do it and then get that feedback. I know a lot of composers are just, are really timid about writing for harp. They either write music that's way too difficult because they don't have that feedback, or they write music that's way too easy because they're terrified of unplayable music. So Kennedy, you've really found that balance, and I really enjoyed working with you and just helping you understand the harp better. So I hope you'll definitely continue to write for it, in your journey as a composer.
Yeah, I am incredibly grateful that my first ever harp piece, I got to work with such a wonderful harpist on it, one-on-one. So,
and actually get to hear it performed, which
yes,
doesn't always happen.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brittney Benton, and I am a composition student here at UNLV taking private lessons. When I first started writing for harp, it took me a lot of time to stop thinking of harp writing as piano writing, especially as a pianist. The role of the hands is a lot different for a harpist than it is for a pianist. So that took me a minute to learn, but I'm starting to get it. I'm getting better. Another thing that I had to learn was harp pedal placement and how to write that in the score and when to write it. That was a little easier for me to learn than the harp writing portion of it. But yeah, it was a lot of new things, but I think I'm getting better. I actually had some of the music for this piece since earlier this year, and I couldn't really find a place for it. I think I have some recorded audio memos of it from like February. And then I got the opportunity to write for harp, and I was like, oh, wow, it's perfect. So it must have been meant. So that was really cool.
Yeah, so then in our sessions, a lot of the work that I did with Brittney was really formatting. So I love how the piece that you had come up with, it really just felt really nice on the harp. It worked well in the hands, so I could tell that you were thinking about how the hands work, how they interact. So a lot of the work that we were doing was figuring out how to actually notate it in a way that is readable on the harp. So one of the big differences between harp and the piano, the hands tend to kind of stay in their own range on the piano right hand plays the higher notes, left hand plays the lower notes. But on the harp, a lot of times they interact in the same range, kind of playing on top of each other. So Brittney's piece uses that some, and one of the challenges we had to figure out was how exactly to notate it in a way that's clear which hand plays which notes, but in a way that's easy to read and not too many markings. So that was where we focused some of our time on in going through the piece. But I am really excited about performing it. It's a really beautiful piece.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I thought that the talk that we had was really informative. Like, I rarely get to ask questions and talk to the performer of a piece before the piece is completed and before it's going to get performed. So being able to ask questions about my piece and then having the ability to hear it being played before it's finished was very helpful, like notational wise and just guiding the composition process. I thought it was really helpful. I enjoyed our talks a lot.
Yeah, and I love working with composers actually earlier in the process, so then as they're coming up with our ideas, we can adjust those before you've written the whole piece. If there's something that kind of works or kind of doesn't, we can make those tweaks, and then you can continue to develop the whole piece. So it's really fun to work early in the process, see those sketches, see the piece, continue to evolve. And then, it's always really fun to see a composer's face light up when they hear a piece on the harp for the first time. It always sounds, so different than the notation software, just the way the harp resonates and acts. So I just love doing that part.
Yeah, it was really fun working with you.
It was fun working with you too.